Okay, welcome everybody. Spiritual Healthcare, day 12. I know a lot of you guys are still locked down in your homes and things like that, which is perfect. Everybody should be staying home right now. But glad we can be doing this. I don't know how many people were watching the Canadian government broadcast this morning, but we're going to be here for a while, it sounds like, which I mean is partly a good thing because, hey, we get to do this a lot more, which is great. But yeah, lots going on today in terms of, announcements and things like that. But all seemingly good stuff. So that's really awesome. We're going to be talking about some pretty cool things today. And some really neat questions came in this morning and last night, and two actually that paralleled one another beautifully about Ouija and the Ouija board and channeling and that kind of thing. So we're going to be talking about that this afternoon, and we're going to be talking about the Mandela effect. Remember all of those the rumors and the talk going around for a while where people were remembering Shaquille O'Neal in a movie called Kazam where he was a genie, and then you look it up on IMDb and it doesn't exist. A lot of people ran into the Bernstein Bears quandary where people remembered it being Bernstein and not Bernstein. So there was a whole bunch of different what they call false memory going on, but people swear up and down that this is that they saw and they know what they know. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today as well. So there's lots of things that we can start to think about when it comes to these ideas of multiverses. We kind of fell down the rabbit hole yesterday a little bit, which is always kind of fun. And when we get to our reading today and things like that, we're going to be seeing, we're going to be discussing a little bit more into that realm as well. So be prepared. We're all going to fall down the rabbit hole today, which is, to me, is fantastic because it gives us lots to talk about. So the first question that I want to actually start with came from Shadow on Twitter. She always writes the most amazing questions, and I'm going to actually break this question up into a couple of days because tomorrow I want to talk about investigations and paranormal research and what it takes to not only go into a place safely but build up a proper scientific team and that kind of thing. So we're gonna kind of go into the world of the field research a little bit tomorrow, which will be really fun. So Shadow's question though is great. She says, my question is regarding Ouija boards. Do you think them to be a true medium of communication with the other side, or would you consider them more of a portal, as some suggest? In my personal experience, I've had good and bad situations around using the Ouija. Would you consider them in the same arena as voice boxes, flashlights blinking, or tappings that are used during paranormal investigations? Shadow, this question is awesome. I love this. So here's the thing with Ouija boards. Both my friend Patricia and I have had some fantastic results with them. Of course, there is always the controversy of suggestion and things like that, which obviously can play a massive role. We see, if you want to actually play with that idea a little bit, if you guys get any sort of pendulum on or a weighted object on the end of a string, and you hold that object sort of by the top of the string and tell yourself that it's going to spin in a certain direction, you're going to watch it actually spin in that direction. Our sympathetic nervous systems are amazing, and they really respond to a lot of thought and sort of the things that we're telling ourselves. So we have to be very careful because sometimes our bodies are doing things that we actually have no control over, and we think it's some sort of outside influence. But here's the thing with Ouija board. There's been a lot of people, myself included, who have had some very interesting results with it. And Stephanie and I, when we first started Entity Seeker, we played around a lot with this idea as, does it work? How does that function? And we had some very interesting results, receiving information that really neither of us had any knowledge on, which was quite factual. And a lot of channelers, even people like Jerry and Esther Hicks, people that have, of course, dealt with Edgar Casey and things like that, have had these very positive and joyful, happy results from conversing this way. So I think when it comes to the Ouija board, it really is about whether or not this is the path of least resistance, and making sure all of those settings are as controlled as possible. Nothing that you get out of a Ouija board or anything like that is ever going to go into, the bucket of scientific evidence by any stretch of the imagination. But a lot of people have really attached sort of a negative perspective to the Ouija board as well, because of course we're bombarded with films and whatnot that portray it being this terrible thing. On Saturday we're going to be actually going into of course the true story of The Exorcist, and everybody has seen that movie, and of course we all know that Reagan got talking to Captain Howdy on the Ouija board and things like that. But using that as an example for a bit of real life, this is it's a really great set point, because how we go into communication, whether it be EVP, whether it be Ouija board, whether it be video ITC, whatever it is, okay, it really still does depend on the emotional state you're entering into with it. Because when we start to remember that our emotional state is going to really dictate what we end up receiving, then how we end up using something like the Ouija board or EVP or something like that, it just again becomes that mirror. So oftentimes people will run into trouble with things like the Ouija board, because guess what? They're looking for things like they're a lost loved one and they're in grief, or they're already scared, so they sit down and they're starting to mess with it and they're freaked out. So there's all of these different factors that dwell in. Not many people sit down and do the emotional prep work to get joyful or to get happy or something like that, to sit down and then start to engage with it. So usually people are sitting in that sort of negative emotional state, and then bam, they get that back. And I think Ouija board has kind of gotten a bad rap because of that, and it doesn't have to be. So really, really great question. Shadow also brought up the patient's worth story as well, and I think this is a really great thing for you guys to actually be able to go and research later if you want. Patience Worth was just a stay-at-home housewife, or sorry, her channeler was a stay-at-home housewife, Pearl Lenore Curran, and Pearl ended up channeling, or believed she was channeling through the Ouija board, Patience Worth. And it became nothing short of a national phenomenon. They were pouring out this incredible literature, and they were known as feats of literary composition. Just phenomenal information. And there were numerous universities and whatnot that took great interest in this, including Baltimore University in Maryland, Maryland and Baltimore, sorry. And it was just absolutely an incredible story, where she would sit and whatnot in her blue dress, and she would start to channel and pull out this just incredible literature. And she was not a highly educated person by any means, so it was pretty cool. So Patience Worth, check it out when you do get a chance. So that's my take on Ouija, and I think, as I say, it's kind of gotten a bad rap, and again, it depends on the sort of how you're entering into things. Our next question is a big one, okay? This is a deep question, and I love it, because I love that type of question, and it's really good. I'm going to read it here for you guys, so you guys can... Okay, so it came from Cameron on Twitter, and he said, "Are you familiar with the Mandela effect? Do you think that these are real incidents of parallel universes overlapping so that we have different memories of historical events?" I love this. Love this question. Okay, so let's define what the Mandela effect is first, so everybody's kind of on the same page. So the Mandela effect, or false memory, was actually discerned by Sigmund Freud and Pierre Janet, and they felt that people would remember or misconstrue events in history, believing that it was memory, for a bunch of different reasons. Words basically were used to phrase questions a certain way, or phrasing can influence previously ignored details. So there was all of these factors, and then on top of it, something like false memory can be influenced by trauma or sleep deprivation and things like that. So some of the more famous cases was the namesake of this phenomenon, which was, of course, Nelson Mandela. And a lot of people believed that they saw his funeral on TV, that he passed away in 2009, which wasn't true. Of course, he passed away in 2013. What is going on? And of course, the Bernstein Bears issue, which of course came up, which has an interesting ending, actually. That was one case where it was not false memory. And my fellow investigator and friend Zach, we dug into this quite deeply, and it turned out it was actually a misprint on some of the books by the publisher. You guys aren't crazy about the Bernstein Bears. You did have the books with the other spelling. So we actually discovered and figured that one out. But there's other ones, as I say, like the Nelson Mandela incident and the Kazam movie with Shaquille O'Neal, where people are remembering these different incidents, and false memories are a thing. However, there are just as many cases of sort of this crossover between what seems like almost these parallel realities and multiverses. So when we start to think about multiverses, this is so neat. There's a few different kinds that they've sort of pieced out, and they've defined them, the physicists have defined them into 5 possible categories. So we have the infinite universe, bubble universe, daughter universes, mathematical, and parallel. Okay, so there's a few different ones here that we can kind of delve into, but the ones that we're looking at are sort of the parallel and the infinite universes. And the idea is that the universe can only arrange its particles in so many ways, right? We've only got so many probabilities. So they feel like some of those particles and some of those arrangements have to be something that is mirroring one another. Okay, so that's where the idea becomes a little bit more substantiated, and we start to wonder, okay, well, wait a minute, is what we're remembering just some sort of crazy, Mandela effect? Is this false memory, or is this something else? Are we remembering a glimpse into these shifted realities? And that becomes a big question. We just don't know the answer to this at this point. We know false memory is absolutely a thing. Of course, we see it in courtroom trials and things like that all the time. But where that line is between false memory and something like the theory of a multiverse, where we're talking about string theory, for example, then, well, we've got something to actually think about. And the only way we can really start to delve into this, I think, is to start looking at investigating each individual case, because I don't think there's going to be a rule book on this. Fascinating. As I say, I love this question. Do I think it could be historical events overlapping? I think that does happen. We see this in cases of paranormal research and hauntings and things like that. Of course, one of the main theories for residual energy is the idea that, maybe we're glimpsing part of a reality where it's happening somewhere else. That playback of environmental chaos or an event or even a sound or something like that. Is it happening somewhere else and we're getting that glimpse into it? It's really hard to say, but the theories are out there. So thank you, Cameron, because it's so good to be able to put that stuff on the table. There's so much to talk about around that question. So I love it. So that being said, today, we had another one here from Shadow, and I want to cover that one as well because it's awesome. Could you discuss protection? Speaking of going back to the Ouija board question, using boards and the correct way to close out board sessions. This is really cool, and this is going to really lean into tomorrow's subject matter as well, which is, how do we go into an investigation, or how do we, communicate with non-physical and keep ourselves centered, right? So it really does go back to the emotional prep work that we do before we go into any sort of a location or any sort of session. And before, like, if I'm doing an investigation, before I go in or deal with clients or anything like that, I spend a good deal of time with a lot of the processes that I've taught you guys already for the last number of days. So for example, writing down things I appreciate, finding a good place to meditate and chill out, making sure that I'm coming at the situation with no baggage, right? So basically making sure that my emotional state, what I'm broadcasting energetically, is what I want to receive back. So if I can sort of pre-pave what that is and pre-pave what I want, I usually find that emotionally I get back either a clean slate or something where I'm just feeling, I feel good, so what I get back is the same thing. So that's how really protection kind of works. And some people, as I say, they use things like sage, they will do a prayer with and cover themselves in white light and all of that kind of thing. It's really all of that. It's great. It all works. Whatever gets you feeling the way you need to feel before you move into a situation or a setting like this. And then be grateful, be thankful. So if you've got, if you've had a great conversation or you've had a great EVP session, say thank you, be grateful for it. Appreciate the fact that you've had this connection and time to interact. So that's how I would definitely move through a situation like that. The other thing I would say, if for some reason there's been a negative encounter or something like that, being conscious not to hang on to it. Okay, so being conscious to not then go call your friends or then go and journal about it and think about it and focus on it, because as soon as you start giving momentum to that, then you're automatically giving momentum for it to continue in your experience. So you want to starve that stuff of attention. Just cut it short. And if you find yourself in that situation where you're communicating with something that doesn't seem right and your gut's telling you it's not right, just shut it down. Just shut it down. There's no harm in that. So that would be my advice on that. Now that being said, we've got some awesome reading today, which I'm excited about because I love this book. It's called Manifest Your Desires. And it's by Esther and Jerry Hicks. And speaking of channeling and Ouija boards and stuff like that, of course, Esther Hicks channels the amazing Abraham, and they are such a wonderfully positive influence, very similar to my great-great-grandfather's work with Louis Benjamin and Jane Roberts with Seth, and just phenomenal information and always so uplifting. If you guys want to find their videos on YouTube, their videos are fantastic. They will make your day. Just be prepared, you're going to be super addicted to them. They're binge-worthy. All right, so check this out. As you give more of your attention to any subject, your emotional reading of either harmony or disharmony with who you really are becomes stronger. If the subject your attention is in alignment with what the source of your being knows, you would feel the harmony of your thoughts in the form of feelings. But if the subject of your attention is not in alignment with what your source knows it to be, you would feel the disharmony of your thoughts in the form of bad feelings. So I love this because we're really talking again about that emotional guidance, right? We want to pay attention to how stuff feels when we're going into it. And they're completely right. When we're in connection and we're in alignment with that, all that is, and that greater part of who we are, then that ends up feeling more positive. It feels joyful. You get excited about it and all of that. So it's something to, I think, really pay attention to, and leads me to the process I want to give you guys today. So this is super cool. One of the neatest things to be able to do with these processes is interact with them, right? So I'm going to grab this. So one of the things that you guys can do, because probably some of you have boxes that are hanging around your house, and probably some of you guys have been cleaning, right? You've been cleaning like crazy. And if you guys can find a box, doesn't matter what it is, it can even be an old Kleenex box, and you're going to use this as your creation box, okay? So what you'll do is that when you see something you like, or you want, or you see or experience something you want more of, you're going to write it down, find a little piece of paper somewhere, write it down, and you're going to drop it in your box. And spend a couple of minutes just appreciating what that would feel like and what that is. And if you're enjoying it in the moment, like a nice blue sky or something like that, then you know, enjoy it, spend a few seconds and just sort of revel in it and drop it in your box. What's interesting about this process and what I love about it is the fact that after a while, you're going to find that some of this stuff starts to show up again and again in your experience. And it's so much fun to play with this because it doesn't have to be something you're experiencing right now. It can be a really great thought, like, you know, man, I'd really love to, I can't wait for that nice steak dinner. Or, you know, it'd be really great if I had blank right now. And, you know, being able to write that down, revel in the feeling of having it, and then leave it in that creative box. So it's a great process. It's a wonderful reminder that where we are right now is indeed temporary, which is so important. And it allows you to kind of pre-pave what's going to be going on in the future as well, because you're starting to put energy into the right things. So I highly recommend the creative box process. It's so cool, and it's just a fun thing to do. Now, that being said, sorry for the banging, everybody. If everybody can hear that, there's construction going on in my building right now, and it's noisy. So I apologize if anybody is hearing that noise. It's not me. All right. So before we do anything else, affirmations, guys. It is natural for my body to be well. Take a breath. Even if I don't know what to do in order to get better, my body does. I have trillions of cells with individual consciousness, and they know how to achieve individual balance. When this condition began, I didn't know what I know now. I don't need to understand the cause of this illness. I only have to gently, eventually release this illness. It doesn't matter how it got started because it's reversing its course right now. There's no hurry about any of this. My body knows what to do. Well-being is natural to me. My inner being is intricately aware of my physical body. My cells are asking for what they need in order to thrive, and Source is answering those requests. I'm in very good hands. My only work is to relax and breathe, and I can do that easily. Everybody take a breath. So, if you guys have questions for tomorrow, because tomorrow we are going to be covering, as I say, the field work for paranormal research and investigations. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to go into these locations, how to deal with certain types of clients. We're going to be talking about all sorts of sort of hands-on stuff. We've been doing a lot of the more theoretical stuff right now over the last number of days, but we're going to delve into not only the processes for investigators, but I think, you know, how do we go about, you know, dealing with investigations, and how do we go about dealing with investigations going forward after the outbreak here, because things are vastly going to change. You know, how do we help our clients? And we're going to talk a little bit about that going forward, and things you guys should be, you know, watching out for if you're looking for that. So we're going to talk about processes. We're going to talk about how Entity Seeker works these cases from the inside out and things like that. So there's going to be a lot of great discussion, a lot of great questions. Please get your tickets for Saturday Ritual, Exorcism, and Film and Television, guys. I'm so excited about that live show. It's going to be on Crowdcast, so you guys are all going to be able to chat together as well. Again, we're going to have just a great time. We're going to delve into things like The Exorcist and The Conjuring and cases like that, and you guys are going to hear some awesome evidence, some amazing audio from the Society of Psychical Research. It is going to be really, really fantastic. So please, Crowdcast. It's crowdcast.io. Grab your accounts. Tickets are only $20. It's going to be really cheap. I want to make sure everybody's got access to this. As I say, normally I'm doing it at the expos and things like that, so I really would love to have you guys come out. I know a lot of you have signed up already. I'm so excited about that. And I'm looking forward to seeing familiar faces there so that we can all just, hang out and really push through some evidence and some interesting theories behind the world of exorcism. So it's going to be really good. I will hope to see you guys on Saturday. If I don't, I will definitely see you guys tomorrow morning right here on Spiritual Healthcare. Thank you guys so much for coming today, and I hope you have an amazing afternoon and the rest of your day. Remember, find your shoe boxes, find your Kleenex boxes, make yourselves your creative box that you can start putting all of those positive energies and wishes and excitement into. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everybody.